I am on page 53 of the textbook with this story called The Looking Glass. And it says to read the passage, then answer questions 1 through 4. And just so you know, a looking glass is a synonym for a mirror. The Looking Glass. Long ago, a young man traveled to Seoul. In a store, a bright object caught his attention. When he looked at it, he could see his face. He had seen his face reflected in his washbowl before, but never so clearly. He bought the looking glass, took it home, and hid it in a drawer. His young wife saw him peeking in the drawer and smiling. When he went out, she found the looking glass. She was startled by the sudden appearance of a very attractive but puzzled young woman. Jealous, she rushed to her mother-in-law and showed her the looking glass. "My husband came home from Seoul with a mistress," the young wife cried. When her mother-in-law looked into the glass, all she saw was a wrinkled old woman. "All I see is a granny visiting from another village," the mother-in-law thought to herself. When her father-in-law came in, he looked into the looking glass, but all he saw was an old man with gray hair. Thinking he saw his deceased father, he quickly kneeled and bowed. The young wife grabbed the mirror and looked at it again. Sure enough, the attractive young woman had returned, but this time she looked angry. The young wife yelled at the woman, and the woman yelled back. Startled, the young wife threw the looking glass on the floor, shattering it to pieces. Did you notice that I made some mistakes while reading? When I got to this paragraph, I did not read it exactly the way it's written, and that was not intentional. I really made a mistake there. I have dyslexia, so I get lost in the reading sometimes. The point is, I still understand the passage. I still understood what I read, even though I didn't read it exactly word for word. I want to read word for word all the time. But if you make a mistake and you don't exactly get it just right, you don't have to start over. As long as you get the meaning, you're okay. Number 1. Why is the young wife upset when she first looks into the mirror? She sees her husband smiling at another woman. She sees her father, who died long ago. She thinks she's turned into an old woman. She thinks that her husband has a mistress. It's this one. She looked in there. She thought she was looking at a picture of his mistress. She didn't realize she was seeing herself. Who is the narrator of this passage? Okay, first I'm going to go back to the passage and ask myself, is this third or first person? And it is third person. The wife is not telling the story. Someone is telling us a story about these characters. So we know it's third person. I can eliminate C and D. I don't even have to read those because it's not first person. The third person narrator is not a character in the story, but knows what each character thinks and feels. The third person narrator is not a character in the story and reveals only what the young wife thinks and feels. So it is A. The third person narrator is not a character in the story, but he knows what each person is thinking. He knows what the father-in-law is thinking. The father, the mother, the wife. He even knows what the husband was thinking. Which character sees an old woman from another village? Was it the young man who saw the old woman? The young wife? It was the mother-in-law who saw the old woman. Because remember, they're looking at themselves. The father-in-law thought he was seeing his father. How would the story change if the narrator revealed only what the young wife thought and felt? Readers would understand why the young wife shattered the looking glass. Readers would not know what each of the other characters saw in the looking glass. Readers would think that the father-in-law really had seen his deceased father. Readers would not believe that the young man's parents were so old. So if the narrator decided to only tell us about the young wife, we would not know what the other characters saw in the looking glass. The narrator chose to tell us what each of those people saw and felt. I love this story. And I always stop and think, can you imagine if this story were true? If none of us really knew what we looked like until we saw ourselves and were startled. If we didn't even know that that image we're looking at is us, how different life might be. Okay, I believe that is the end of this lesson and this skill. So in the next one, we will be looking at lesson 17, and I believe it's about details. I'm not positive, but we'll take a look. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.